The role that the monarch has played since then is the rational voice of reason. They got to keep the titles, the ceremonies, the palaces, and in return, they give the empire a human face, a relatable face, a face that brings back Christmas, a face that has royal weddings. This king narrates for a system he has no control over. Parliament controls the tax, and the city controls Parliament's credit. While Charles II spent a lot of his reign constantly trying to bargain with the House of Commons, City of London credit markets are becoming indispensable. By 1694, the Bank of England has been established to fund the national debt. The monarch becomes the rational arbiter. Their authority is recast as their ability to provide rational judgment rather than hold raw power. No one embodies this better than Elizabeth. She was always staged as calm, reasonable and measured, above party politics, and guaranteed to always see both sides. Governments come and go, but the monarch is consistent. Post-war constitutional theory in Britain leans hard on this. The monarch is the neutral umpire, the soft brakes on extremism. Let's go back to Charles's speech. He opens by saying, "We meet in times of great uncertainty, in times of conflict from Europe to the Middle East, which pose immense challenges for the international community." Translation: everything is unstable and the US is a big part of why. He would never say that, of course. A king doesn't say that in a toast. But the entire speech only makes sense if you already understand that NATO is wobbling and Trump spent his entire first term threatening to leave the alliance entirely. Then he references January 6th. He says, "We meet too in the aftermath of the incident not far from this great building that sought to harm the leadership of your nation. Let me say, such acts of violence will never succeed." Translation: we do not support the type of violence that destabilizes the elected chambers. He goes on to say, "It is extraordinary to think that I am the 19th of our line of sovereigns to study with daily attention the affairs of America." Study with daily attention is not admiration. You study a problem. You study a threat. It is paternal, even slightly colonial. The Crown tracks America the way a managing director tracks a subsidiary organization. Then he says, "The very principle on which your Congress was founded, no taxation without representation, was at once a fundamental disagreement between us and at the same time a shared democratic value which you inherited from us. The American Revolution was a revolt against the British Crown. That's the revolution's slogan, no taxation without representation." Charles says, "Actually, that's a British value." Again, quite paternal. "We raised you correctly, even your revolution used our ideas." It tells the room, you didn't break from us. You evolved from us. You fulfilled us. And therefore, when we tell you to maintain the alliance and keep your strong man in check, you must listen. He continues, "Today, thousands of US personnel, defense officials and their families are stationed in the United Kingdom, as British personnel serve with equal pride across 30 American states. We are building F-35s together." The part that he won't say, that I will, we are building F-35s together in defiance of British popular opinion. F-35s is a US-led program. Britain gets a share of the work in exchange for fitting US standards and US rules onto its own British Air Force. He then says, "And we have agreed the most ambitious submarine program in history, AUKUS. AUKUS means Australia, UK, US. Again, this is a US-led, US-centered, US-centric doctrine. And this is where the incoherence of his role in the modern order starts to appear. When Charles says we are building F-35s together, he is describing a relationship of structural capture of the British Army, structural dependence on the United States military-industrial complex, and calling that a partnership. The UK nuclear deterrent fires US-made Trident II D5 missiles. These are manufactured and maintained through US logistics. This 2025 assessment describes Britain as highly dependent on the US for its nuclear program. A study on UK defence privatisation found that of 16 RAF fixed-wing aircraft types, only 4 were British-made. The study identified US General Dynamics as holding significant control over British heavy armour supply chains. US weapons manufacturers, private companies, are colonising the British Army, and the King just called that a partnership. Then he says, our governments are concluding new economic and technology agreements to write the next chapter of our joint prosperity and ensure that British and American ingenuity continues to lead the world. Our nations are combining talent and resources in the technologies of tomorrow, in AI and drug discovery. This is where the Magna Carta meets the data center. This speech just spent several paragraphs making the case that British and American law, liberty, and constitutional tradition are one shared story. Now it pivots. That same story is what justifies this US-UK technology integration. In 2025, Palantir, a surveillance company that was seeded with CIA money, signed a strategic partnership with the UK Ministry of Defence. The King does not name Palantir. He doesn't need to. He is providing the moral wrapper that makes this deal, this US surveillance integration into British public services, as the natural continuation of the Magna Carta. A king whose own country cannot run its military without American missiles, American aircraft, American supply chains, American-owned surveillance software, had to fly to Washington to tell Congress, your president is breaking the machine, please stop him, because we all depend on the machine. And he dresses that up with the Magna Carta, shared heritage, the founding fathers, and then a prayer. That's what the crown is for. It's not for tourism. He produces the story that makes the empire's power look like civilization.